She wants you to sing? Yeah, yeah, good.
Page 23. um, Krishna hoite chaturmukha, Haya Krishna sevan mukha, Brahma hoite narate ramati, Narada hoite vyasa, Marvaka hai vyasa dasa, Purna pragyan parmana bhagati, Nehari marava vamse, Akshobhya paramahamse, Shishambali angi karakare, Akshobhyara shisha jaya, Tirtaname parichaya, Taradase jnana sindhatare, Tahate daya nidhi, Taradasa vidya nidhi, Rajendra hailo tahate, Tahara Kinkara Jaya Namaname Parichaya Paramparam Janabhalamate Jaya Dharma Dasya Kyati Shri Purushottamam Jatim Tahate Brahmanyate Tasuri Vyasate tatara dasa Lakshmi pati vyasa dasa Tahate Madhavendra puri Madhavendra puri vara Shishvara Shishvara Nityananda Shri Advaita Vibhu Vishwara puri ke dhanya Karalena Shri Chaitanya Jagat Guru Gaura Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Him Rupanuga Janera Jivana Vishambhara Priyankara Shri Swarupa Damodar Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajana Jiva Raghunatahana Tara Priya Kave Krishna Dasa Krishna Dasa Priya Vara Narottama Seva Para Jara Para Vishwanata Asa Vishwanata Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tara Priya Shri Bhakti Vinoda Mahabhagavata Vara Shri Gora Kishara Vara Hare Bhajan Te Charamoda Vashabhana Vivara Sada Seva Seva Para Dahara Daita Dasanama Prabhupada Antaranga Shiswarupa Rupanuga Shikasava Bhakati Pragyana Gaudiya Vedanta Vedama Vadata Mohanta Gauravani Prachara Chadhama Pracharila Gauravani Bhakati Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Kama Keshapriya Mahajana Vama Narayana Hana Gauravanitara Pranadhanam Esava Hare Jan Gaurangera Nijajan Tatarachista Morakama Guru Paramparam Guru Paramparam Paramparam Guru Paramparam Vrindavana Vase Jato Stamp? Maybe in the white desk. Check in the side if it's not in the white cabinet. Vrindavana Vase Jato Vaishnavera Kana Pradane Vandana Kare Sabara Charana Nilachala Vase Jata Mahaprabhu Kana Pumita Padaya Bandho Sabara Charana Navadvipavase Jato Mahaprabhu Kakta Sabhara Charana Vando Hayanurata Mahaprabhu Bhakta Jata Gorata Shastite Sabhara Charana Vando Karya Pranati Jadashe Jadashe Vaishe Gorangera Gana Urvabahu Kari Vando Sabara Charana Hayachena Hai Bena Prabhu Jata Dasa Sabara Charana Vando Dante Karigasa Pramana Tarita Shakti Dharajana Dane Veda Purane Gunagaya Devasune Mahaprabhu Gana Sabapati Pavana Taila Bemue Papilo Inusharana Vandana Karite Mue Kata Shakti Dhari Kama Bhuti Dasha Mue Dhampa Matra Kari Tatapi Mukhera Bhagya Manara Udasha Tasakshami Mohaname Karani Jadasa Sarvavancha Siddhi Hoy Yama Bhanda Chute Jagata Dhurava Hoya Premadhanava Niravasana Purna Achirate Haya Devaki Nandana Dasa Hello Bekoya Jai Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedaya Kari Swapashara Sviya Dhama Savatari Adanta Dulabha Prema Koribare Dana Shikhaya Sharana Kate Bhakatera Pranam Tanya Atmani Vedana Goptit Varana Avasya Rakshive Krishna Vishwasapalana Bhakti anukula matra karara svikara Bhakti pratikula bhava vajanangikara Saranga Sharanagati Hoy Vedahara Tara Pratana Sune Shinanda Kumara Rupa Sanatana Pade Tantra Tinakari Bhakati Vinoda Pade Rupadadhari Kandiya Kandiya Bale Amito Adhama Shikhaye Sharanagati Karahe Uttam Jaya Sapasara Jaya Gaurahari Sapasara Jaya Gaurahari Jai. Gornitai. Gornitai. Uh, um, um, oh, do you have anything in mind? Sure. Okay.
Page 90. Kahave no dasamora Gave ave no dasamora Gave have no dasamora Gave ama Dasamo Tvaji Jadas Vividha Bandhana Charivo Samsara Gora Tvaji Jadas Vividha Bandhana Gora Kabe Habe no Dasamora Kabe Amo no Dasamora Vrindavana Vire Navadvipa Dame Badivokuti Rakani Vrindavana Vire Navadvipa Dame Gana Sachidanandana Charana Ashaya Charana Ashaya Sachidanandana Charana Ashaya Charana Ashaya Karibo Sambanamani Karibo Sambanamani Kave Ave no Dasamora Behave no Dasamora Janavi Poline Chinmaya Kanane Bosia Vijana Sale Janavi Poline Krishna Namamrita Nirantara Pivo Nirantara Pivo Krishna Namamrita Nirantara Pivo Takibo Gauranga Bole Takibo Gauranga Bole Takibo Gauranga Bole Takibo Gauranga Kabe Have Heno Dasamora Kabe Have No Dasamora Hagora Nitai Toraduti Bai Patita Janera Bandhu Hagora Nitai Bandhu Adama Patita Amihe Dorjana Amihe Dorjana Adhama Patita Amihe Dorjana Amihe Dorjana How more kripa sindhu How more kripa sindhu Patita janera bandhu Patita janera bandhu Kave hame no dasamore Kave habe no dasamora Kadite kadite Sola kroshadam Janavi ubhaya kule Kadite kadite Brahmite brahmite Kabu bhagya phale Brahmite brahmite Kabu bhagya phale Deka kichu taru mule Kichu taru mule Kabe have no dasamora No dasamora Haha manohara Dedekinu ami bolia morchitavo Haha manohara Dedekinu ami Samvit paya Kadibo gopane Kadibo gopane Samvita paya Kadibo gopane Kadibo gopane Smaridu kripalava Smaridu kritalava Kave have no dasamora Eno dada Tajiya jadasa vida bandana Charibo samsara gora Tajiya jadasa vida bandana Charibo samsara gora Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaurari Sachinandan Jaya Gaurari Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaurari Sachinandan Jaya Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. When will such a condition be mine? Upon renouncing my mundane desires and all varieties of bondage, I shall relinquish this dreadful material existence. I shall construct a small hut in Sri Navadvip Dham, which is non-different from Sri Vrindavan. Recognizing my relationship with Sri Sachinandan, I shall take shelter of his lotus feet. Sitting in a solitary place within a transcendental forest on the bank of the Jahnavi river, Ganga, I shall continuously drink the nectar of Sri Krishna's name. Chanting the name of Gauranga, I shall call out, O Gauranitai! Both of you brothers are the friends of the fallen souls. I am the lowest of the low and very sinful, so please be an ocean of mercy to me. Weeping and weeping, as I wander about the 16 kroshas, 32 square miles of the Dham, by both the Jahnavi, Ganga's banks, I shall by some good fortune behold a vision beneath a tree. O Manohar, enchanter of the mind, what have I seen today? Saying this, I shall faint. After regaining consciousness, I shall weep in secret, remembering that drop of Shri Gauranitai's mercy. Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Nice.
Hari Nama Tua Aneka Swarupa Hari Nama Tua Aneka Swarupa Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Hare Nama Tu Yashodanandana Anandavardhana Nandatanaya Rasa Gopa Yashodanandana Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Hari Nama Uttanaghatana Trinavatahana Shakata Bhanjana Gopala Hana Shakata Bhanjana Gopala Amuralivadana Akhapakamardana Govardhana Dharira Kala Oh Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Keshimardana Brahma Vimohana Surapatidapa Vinashi. Aristapatana Gopi Vimohana Yamuna Pulina Vilasi. Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Radhikaranjana Rasa Rasayana Radha Kunda Kunja Bihari. Rama Krishna Hari Madhavanara Hari Matsyadikane Avatari. Rama Krishna Hari Madhavanara Hari Matsyadikane. Oh, Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Govinda Vamana Shri Madhusudana Yadava Chandravana Mali. Oh, Kaliya Satana Gokula Ranjana Radha Bhajana Sukha Shali. Oh, Hari Nama Tua Aneka Sarupa Hari Nama Tua Aneka Atidika Nama Sarupa Prakama Paduka Murarati Rage. Arupa Sarupa Pada Janini Jasampada Bhakati Vinoradhari O Hari Nama Tuha Aneka Sarupa Hari Nama Hari Nama Tuha Aneka Sarupa Jaya Hari Nama Hari Nama Hari Nama Jaya Hari Nama Jaya Hari Nama Jaya Hari Nama Hari Nama Jaya Hari Nama Shila Bhakti Vinod Jaya Bhakti Vinod Bhakti Vinod Jaya Bhakti Vinod Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari 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 Nitai Gaura Hari Nitai Gaura Hari 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 Nitai Gaura Hari Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. O Harinam, you possess unlimited forms. You are the darling son of Mother Yashoda, and you increase the bliss of Gokul. You are the beloved son of Nanda Maharaj, and you are a deep well of rest. You are the slayer of the witch Putana, the killer of the demon Trinavarta, and the destroyer of the demon Shakat, the cart demon, and the protector of the cows. You are the player of the flute, the subduer of the demons Agashur and Bakashur, the lifter of Govardhan Hill, and the cowherd boy. You are the vanquisher of the demon Keshi, and you bewilder Lord Brahma, and you destroy the pride of the king of the demigods, Lord Indra. You are the killer of the demon Arishta, the enchanter of the gopis, and the performer of playful pastimes on the banks of the Yamuna river. You are the delight of Srimati Radhika. You are he who brings the elixir of life to the Ras dance, and you are the enjoyer of pastimes in the kunjas at Radhakund. You are the reservoir of pleasure, and the all-attractive one, the remover of inauspiciousness, the husband of the goddess of fortune, the half-man, half-lion incarnation known as Nrsingadev, and the source of all other incarnations, beginning with the fish, Matsya. You are the protector of the cows, the dwarf Brahman incarnation, the slayer of the demon Madhu, the moon of the Yadu dynasty, and he who wears beautiful garlands of fresh forest flowers. You are the punisher of the serpent Kaliya, the delighter of Gokul, and he who takes pleasure in worshipping and meditating on Srimati Radhika. Clasping the lotus feet of Srila Rup Goswami and Sri Swarup Damodar, understanding them to be his sole assets, Bhaktivinoda Thakur humbly begs, may my love and attachment for all these forms of the holy name, which have appeared by their own sweet will, ever increase. Jai. Maybe from upstairs. I don't think she's coming down. 10:11.
I'll do Radha Bhajan if you do Maha Mantra. 114. Or Radha Jai Jai is better. I don't know. Okay. Dekite, bolivo bakabe, nijastula parichai. Dekite, bolivo bakabe, nijastula parichaya. Nayene heribo, brajapura soba, nayene heribo, brajapura soba, nityachiranandamo, nityachiranandamo. Vrishabhanupare janamaloivo jabate vivave. Vrishabhanupare janamaloivo jabate vivave. Vrishabhanupare janamaloivo jabata vivave. Vrishabhanupare janamaloivo ave. Braja gopi bhav hoye beswaba. Braja gopi bhav hoye beswaba. Braja gopi bhav hoye beswaba. Hoye beswaba. Anabhava narahive. Anabhava narahive. Javate vivave. Javate vivave. Nija siddha deha, nija siddha nam, nija rupa swavasan. Radha kripa bale, labhibo bhakave. 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 Krishna prema prakarana. Krishna prema prakarana. Nija rupa swabhasana. Nija rupa swabhasana. Yamuna salila aharane giya bujibo jugalarasa. Yamuna salila bujibo jugalarasa. Prema mukta hoye pagalini praya. Pagalini praya, prema muktaye, pagalini praya. Gaibo radharayasa, radharayasa, bujibo yugalarasa. Dekite, bolivo bhakave, nijastula parichai. Dekite, bolivo bhakave, nijastula parichaya. Nayane rivo Brajapada Sobha Nayane Rivo Brajapada Nayane Rivo Brajapada Sobha Herivo Brajapada Sobha Nitya Chirananda Moya Nitya Chirananda Moya Nija Surachaya Nija Sura Parichaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. When before my very sight will my bodily self-conception disappear? Then with my own eyes I shall behold the exquisite beauty of Braj, full of eternal spiritual cognizance and bliss. At that time I shall take birth in the village of Brishabhanu Maharaj, and my marriage will occur in Yavat. My sole disposition and character will be that of a Braja Gopi. Any other mood will not remain. When shall I obtain, by the power of Radha's mercy, my perfected spiritual body, my perfected spiritual name, and my own form and dress? True initiation into the realm of Krishna Prem. When I go to draw water from the Yamuna, I shall understand the confidential mellows of the divine couple's loving affairs. Being overwhelmed with Prem, I shall sing Sri Radha's glories just like a mad woman. Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shrimati Radharani ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. So what's happening?
Should I get someone to cover my lunch offering? Blah blah blah. Good. Okay. Jai Ho. What would you guys do? So what's gonna happen on Nitya Tuesday? Oh.
Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Nama Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayani Tinamine Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama. Offer my unlimited Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Nitya Lila Pravishna Om Vishnu Pad, Asto Tata Sri Srimad, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I also offer my Dandavat pranams to Srimati Shamrani Didi, who is guiding us all today in this beautiful day at Radharam Bihari, or what's it called here? Sacred Vedic Arts. And all the brahmacharis here, Vaishnavis, Dandavat pranams. So Vasanti just said to read this about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and I wish I would have read it beforehand so I don't have to read because I don't like reading. It's so boring. People fall asleep and their minds drift away. Like it's nice when you're able to like relish the contents. But since I'm a Muda, I can't remember very much about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But no, I'll do Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti because then I'll do more with Madhavacharya. Today is the appearance day of Madhavacharya, but apparently on Friday it was the appearance day of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he was not able to be covered. And so Shramarandi wants to speak about it today. Now, out of all the acharyas, my personal favorite and my Guru Maharaj's personal favorite is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You can't, I mean, technically Rupa Goswami, but there's some speciality to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He wrote beautiful commentaries, like the Sarta Darshini. Have you guys read that one? It's like a commentary to Bhagavatam. And he wrote a commentary to Bhagavad Gita called the Sarta Varshini. And was that what it's called? Sarta Varshini? I think so. Anyway, these commentaries are like extremely rasik. Yeah, Sarta Varshini. And when you read his commentaries, you like really feel like you're entering into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, because he helps to understand their moods. Because we can like hear Krishna's pastimes, but we don't really understand the personality of Krishna. We don't really understand how Krishna operates, how his mind works. And you read the commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, then you get to see how Krishna's mind kind of operates. Because in his commentaries, he'll like there'll be a verse, and instead of just explaining the verse, he breaks it into a dialogue. He's like, oh, then Krishna thought this, but then Radhika said this, and then Krishna thought this, and then Radhika said this, and it comes to it. But that's not in the verse technically, but he is expanding it in his commentary. And then the heart gets churned, and then we start to fall in love with Krishna and Radharani even more when we start to see their divine personalities at play. So, in the beginning, we're just like, Krishna's God, God is great, chant my rounds, do my seva, I hope I don't go to hell. That's kind of where we're at in the beginning. But then we get more into devotional service, and we still always follow the rules. In fact, this book, Raghavartma Chandrika, is very exceptional. It's written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and it helps explain the transition from Vaidhi to Raganuga. Some argue there's not even a transition. You either start with one or not. I can describe more about that, but that's not really the topic for today. Maybe we'll do another class. I'll just say a couple things. You all know what Vaidhi Bhakti is? That's when we follow devotional service based on some fear. And Raganuga is more based on a greed. So, for example, two people might join the temple the same day. One person, let's say, had an abortion and they're feeling super guilty and they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to hell. because I did some sinful activity. And then I met a devotee, and they said, chant Hare Krishna, and you'll be saved, and you'll go to Vaikuntha. So they joined the temple. So they're joining with the mood of like, I want to be absolved of my sins. I want to be a devotee so that I can attain the spiritual world. But someone else that same day, they got a Krishna book, and they read Krishna's pastimes, and they were like, whoa, I want to go be with Krishna. I want to be an eternal associate. I want to have pure love for Krishna. They're starting off with more of a greed to have a position, an eternal associate position, and the other one's just thinking like, I don't want to go to hell. So both will join the same day. Both will chant Harinam. Both will go to Mangalarti. Both will distribute books. Both will take prasad. Both will clean the temple. Both will look like they're doing exactly the same thing, but internally, one is thinking very seriously, I want to go to Goloka. I want to be Krishna's associate. And the other one's thinking, I don't want to suffer, and I'll take any position in the spiritual world. I'll take a forearm form, like whatever it is, as long as it's not hell. This is like I'm being a little funny about it, but this is like the gist is that one is impelled by the rules and regulations of scripture and the fear of not doing the things, and the other one is I simply want to attain Krishna. I'm tired of this world and I want to be a Brijabasi. That's like the beginning of Raganuga. That greed comes there. Anyway, this book explains it more thoroughly, but Santi gave me the book not to speak about the book, but because in the introduction there's a nice little life history of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It's only a few pages long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't want you guys to fall asleep because I'm boring as it is without reading, so imagine if I read. So, but I'll just say a few things that I can see. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was born in a Brahmin family, as most of our acharyas were, and he went to school and did, because in India, in a Brahmin family, the children go to like grammar school and they learn Sanskrit grammar. That's like the foundation. Before you can study Shastra or scripture, you have to learn the language of the scripture and all the rules and things. And that helps you become a scholar because when you understand Sanskrit fully, then you can see more meaning in the verses. Each Sanskrit verse, it's like a sutra. It's like a code with lots of information inside of it. And at first glance, the first time you read it, if you know some Sanskrit and you read it over it, you'll get the general meaning. But each word can be broken down more and more and more, and more meaning can be pulled from it. And the more realization you have just in the Sanskrit language itself, the more understanding comes. But what to speak of when you perform actual sadhana bhajan and you're chanting and your heart's becoming purified, then even more things come. So a lot of our acharyas, if you read the commentaries of like Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami or Jiva Goswami, their commentaries are heavily Sanskrit oriented, where they'll take a word, just one word of the verse, and go into 10 different meanings, which change the whole meaning of the verse. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also did that, but he also made it lighter, where he made it more dialogue and easier to access and enter into, because each acharya is preaching to a different audience, in one sense. Like we'll hear about Madhavacaraya a little bit later. But each acharya has like a duty given by Krishna. They could do all the other duties, but each one gets like a speciality. Just like in the temple now, each one of you have your own speciality to do. But you could do all the other duties, but each one gets its own like speciality. So some of the acharyas were like defeating all these other philosophies, so they have to speak in a certain way. And then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was able to go more into the rustic nature of things. But even during his time, he met with opposition, which we'll hear about in just a sec. So, anyways, born a nice Brahmin boy, and he went to school, he studied all these things, and even then, when he was very young, he wrote 3 books, which we know at least one of them really well. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. That means he read the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the book written by Srila Rupa Goswami, which is a huge compendium of just like all things related to bhakti and bhakti ras, like what is bhakti, the components of bhakti, bhakti ras, all these things. And it kind of ends with just before entering into Madhurya ras. And so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's a big book. It's a pretty thick book. So he took that and he took the essence of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or he took a bindu of it, a drop. Bindu means drop. So he took a drop from that ocean of ras and he made a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu bindu, which we have, don't we? Do we have any of those? Maybe. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Life. But anyways, to all you guys online, pick up your book today. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu bindu. In that book, it would very succinctly teach you the fundamentals of bhakti, beginning with what is bhakti. Anya Vilasita Sunya. Yeah. Anyways, you get it. All that is broken down very nicely in that book. The next one is Ujjwal Nilamani Quran, which, like, from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami then kind of ended it at the beginning of Madhurya Ras, and then in Ujjwal Nilamani he expanded Madhurya Ras fully, which is why it's kind of like a more graduate study. And so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur then took just a ray, a Quran, a little ray of that. Like the sun is a giant globe of burning fire, but one little ray is enough to satisfy us, especially on a day like today. We're just looking for those little Qurans of sunlight. Because I was out there just now, like, oh, please, Surya Dave, don't go behind a cloud. It is cold in Miami for all those who aren't here, which is like summertime in other places, but it's cold for us. So we're looking for that little Quran, a little ray. So then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he then took the Ujjwal Nilamani and gave a summary synopsis. And the last one is Bhagavatamrita Kana, which is, I think, a synopsis of the Bhagavatamrita, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There's also the Lagu Bhagavatamrita by Rupa Goswami, which I was reading earlier today, because Varahadev's appearance is coming very soon, and I wanted to read about Varahadev. Anyways, have you guys read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Okay. What can I say? It's a very, it's a very amazing, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's there's two parts. One part, there's two like stories. One story is the story of just Narada Muni on a quest to find the recipient of the Lord's mercy, the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. And they go in a gradation. And he starts in one place and he goes all the way up to the gopis. Everything always ends with the gopis, you know, little, what's it called a spoiler alert. It's all, everything ends with the gopis. They're always going to be the highest. But anyway, that's one story. And the second story is Gopakumar, which is nice because Gopakumar, he receives a mantra like we all have received our Diksha mantras, and he chants this mantra, and you get to see his progression from earth to the heavens, to all the layers of the universe, to outside the universe, to Vaikuntha, all the dimensions of Vaikuntha, all the way to Krishna Loka, and there he finally meets with Krishna. And their meeting is, it's like, you'll probably cry. It's very sweet when Gopakumar meets with Krishna, finally, after so much. Anyway, that story, those two stories are what is the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which was written by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and it pretty much starts off with, you guys know the Bhagavatam, right? You just kidding, of course you do. So the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and just before Parikshit Maharaj was to leave his body and was to be burned by the snake bird, his mother Uttara said, "Oh, my son, you just for 7 days heard this entire nectar from Sukadeva Goswami, but I didn't catch it all. Like it was a little too much for me. Can you just give me the essence, the Bhagavatam Amrita? Just give me the nectar of it, just the nectar of the Bhagavatam." So then he then spoke these two stories to his mother Uttara, which if you have read the Bhagavatam and you read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you'll see that even though it's a different story, all the teachings are parallel. So it's like a quicker way to digest the teachings of the Bhagavatam. Anyway, so then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gave also a small amount to that. Now, I don't know if we have these other two books, Ujjwal Nilamani Quran or Bhagavatamrita Kana in English. So just pray to God that one day it'll come to us in English. Quran means like a ray. No, Kiran, Kirana, Not the Quran. No, it's not. It is not the Udrani Lamani Quran. It does. That's why, because I didn't go to Sanskrit school like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So when I say Kiran, it does sound like Kiran. I don't know how to say it. Kiran, like a ray of light, like a ray of Vishnu. Anyways, those are three of his beginning books that he wrote when he was still young and in school. These are books that we study to advance in bhakti, and he wrote them when he was still young. And so, a short time later, he renounced his household life and went to Vrindavan. He pretty much said, Mom and Dad, I'm leaving home. And he wrote many more books and commentaries. Now, after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, most. See, I don't want to read to you guys, but I have to read a little bit so I know what I'm talking about. After Mahaprabhu, there was many Bengali associates who lived in Bengal, and they kept the tradition flowing in Bengal. But the Goswamis and others went to Vrindavan, and they stayed in Braj, and they revealed a bunch of pastime places, and they kept the current of bhakti strong in Braj. So we had like twin cities. We had like the Bengal empire of devotees, and then the Braj empire. And in Bengal, Janavatakarani was like the queen, and in Braj, the Goswamis were there. And so then the next generation came, which was Narottam, Srinivas, and Shamananda. They were like the next generation, and they got trained up by the Goswamis, and they got the mercy of Janavatakarani, and they would go from Braj to Bengal. So then after them, the next generation, after the Prabhu Troy, the three Prabhus, there's like some intermediate disciples, but ultimately the next generation rests on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And like all things, when some time passes, Vaishnava Siddhanta gets polluted. It's not, I mean, it's our fault, but it's natural. Like someone like me, I will pervert the philosophy because I'm a conditioned soul. And I'll tell people some little wrong aspect, and then they'll tell it a little bit wrong, kind of like the game telephone. It just, eventually our philosophy gets polluted. We can even see it in our recent times, where some things that were taught 50 years ago have already begun to be changed. So it's a natural thing. It's not a healthy thing, but it's a natural thing. So the Vaishnava philosophy, it's given by the Goswamis, given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even within a period of 100 years, began to change. Eventually, it went to a complete dark period for like 400 years until Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur came and like reestablished it. But anyway, so after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and after his associates and after Narottama Srinivas, it became Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now, technically, Sri Ganganarayan Mahashai was a disciple of Narottam Das Thakur, and then his disciple was Ram Krishna Bhattacharya. Wait a second. So Ram Krishna Bhattacharya had a disciple named Krishna Charan, and this Krishna Charan had a disciple named Radharaman Chakravarti, who then became the spiritual master of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. So in our Guru Parampara, we have like, you're initiated by so-and-so, who's initiated by so-and-so, initiated by so-and-so. And that's one way of seeing the Guru Parampara, but the way that we see the Guru Parampara is the most prominent Acharya that has encapsulated the mood of the previous Acharya. So if we look at our Guru Parampara, like Sri Gorkasharas Babaji is not a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but we put them like this. This is called Bhagavat Parampara, because Srila Gorkasharas Babaji had all the same mood and ideology as Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though he didn't receive mantra. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not take initiation from Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. He took initiation from Bipin Bihari, which is coming from a different line, still Gaudiya. But so we see in Guru Parampara the most prominent acharyas who have the same mood. So in this way, we say, when we sing our Guru Parampara song, we sing Narottam, and then we sing Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Okay. So defending the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta and lineage. What is this going to be about? This is going to be about, this will actually go more into Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu. But pretty much what happened here, if I can remember correctly, is that in Jaipur, they had the deities of, which ones are in Jaipur? Gopal's there too, but is Radha Govinda? Yeah, the big one, Radha Govinda. They have all the deities. That is correct. I meant the main ones is Radha Govinda, right? Yeah, I've been there and I don't even remember the Thakurji's name. Like I said, I will change the philosophy because I'm a bogus person. So then the pundits were worshiping Radha Govinda, but then at some point, due to these devious mentalities entered into the Siddhanta, they thought, if this is not proper that we're worshiping Radharani and Krishna together because they're not married. And who are we to worship an unmarried couple when we're trying to create Vedic culture here? Where we're like, hey, you should be married, husband and wife. Do not do, like all these principles about marriage, but meanwhile we're worshiping an unmarried Radha Govinda. So it's best we separate them from their worship. And there's probably more details than that, but I'm kind of glossing over it. So it became a big thing that they wanted to remove the worship of Radha and Krishna, even though the Goswamis had established these deities. There we go, here we go. The Vaishnavas of the antagonistic camp, led by Jai Singh, to believe that the scriptures did not support the worship of Srimati Radhika along with Govinda Dev. Their contention was that Srimati Radhika's name was not mentioned anywhere in the Bhagavatam, and that she was never legally married to Krishna according to Vedic rituals. Another objection was that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas did not belong to a recognized line of disciplic succession or sampradaya. Oh, this will come in later with Madhavacaraya. Oh, boy, I gotta hurry up then. What time, Haridas, did you say? 11:15. All right, we're gonna move along here. But we're gonna see, like, one of the things is they're saying, hey, you Gaudiyas, which prump are you from? There's four main sampradayas. Which one are you? They're like, oh, we're the Madhva. They're like, well, how prove it? So then they needed to be proved a little bit. Also, each sampradaya has to have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is if you took all Vedic knowledge and you put it into like special code or aphorisms, sutras, that is the Vedanta Sutra. It's the end all be all of all Vedic knowledge. And it's very hard to understand because it'll be like one line of like 5 words will have like 25 pages of meaning. So it's very deep. And every acharya will tackle each line and kind of extract a meaning to support their doctrine. So each sampradaya has to have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So then they were like, hey, you're Gaudiya Vaishnava, or you're calling yourselves Gaudiya. Where's your Vedanta Sutra commentary? And in this way, there was a lot of things coming up, and they needed to defend the Parampara. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had become aged at that time, very elderly, doing these little sickness pastimes like our Swamini upstairs, and didn't want to come down, so she sent second best. And no, but you know what I'm saying. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also was not able to go to Jaipur to do the debate, even though he would have loved to. So he sent his infamous disciple, Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu, who then went there, debated with the pundits, completely smashed them. They were still like, but you do not have commentary on Vedanta, so even though you technically beat us, we do not accept you. And then that night, with the mercy of Govinda Dev, who then dictated to him, Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan wrote the entire Govinda Bhasya. Bhasya means commentary. So he wrote this commentary of Govinda on Vedanta Sutra and presented it to the pundits the next morning, and they were like, oh dang, we surrender. And then Radha Govinda were once again worshipped very nicely in Jaipur until this day. So that is through the mercy of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who gave all this spiritual knowledge to Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan, who was able to defend our sampradaya. So I'm just going to summarize that one. Oh, the next one. Realizing the meaning of Kam Gayatri. This is a very sweet pastime. Hope I can speak it correctly. If I had read this earlier, I would be able to speak a little bit more nicely, but I'm kind of going off memory. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes a bit of some words on the Kam Gayatri. Now, most of us here have Kam Gayatri, so I'll say some things. So in the Kam Gayatri, you could count 24 syllables or 25 syllables. But if you did it like on your fingers. But technically, Srila Kaviraj Goswami says there's 24 and a half syllables. And so, and then he described which each syllable is. It's one of the moons of Krishna. Now I forget all the moons. It's like one is Krishna's face, one is one cheek, one is the other cheek, one is his Chandan dot, one is the Bindu Swarga. That's like five, and then 10 fingers and 10 toes. I did it. Ha I got it. Toenails and fingers. So that's 25 moons. Congratulations. Um, so he's like, so which one is the half moon? And so he then took all these Sanskrit grammar books and looked through them, trying to find which is the half syllable. And he went to a lot of them. Remember, he went to school to do grammar, so he was pretty fluent in grammar. He could not figure out which is the half syllable. And then he became very depressed, and he thought, now, either Kaviraj Goswami made a mistake in his writing of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he's like, no, this is impossible. He is a liberated Vaishnava. He's a Mukta Parut. Like, he is not bound by the material energy, so he cannot make a mistake. So then he thought, the mistake is within me, that I can't understand that. And if I can't understand what is the half syllable in this Kam Gayatri, the deity of the mantra will never reveal themselves to me. And if I can never have the darshan of the mantra, I might as well give up my life. So then that night he was thinking, I'm going to kill myself if I can't figure out what the half syllable is. Now, meanwhile, someone like me chants their Gayatri mantra every day, having no idea what it means and having no darshan of the deity, and I'm happy to go on the next day like life's perfect. So this is kind of the mood we have to have if we really want to go deep into bhajan. Just a drop, a bindu, or a ray, kiran, of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's longing. Like, oh, I really want to know. So, anyways, that night in his dream, Srimati Radhika came to him and said, "Oh, do not worry, do not worry. Actually, if you look at this one scripture, now, I would look for it, but I don't know if we find it. Anyway, she said, if you look in this one particular scripture, you will find the half syllable, and the half syllable is actually the syllable ya before the v in the Kam Gayatri. So now in your head, you can say it really quick. So anyways, it's that first ya. Anyway, so you get it. That ya is the half syllable, and it correlates to the crescent or the half moon on Krishna's. Like we put tilak on like this, but Krishna's tilak can be however he wants it to be. But generally, we put Gaudiya tilak on our Krishna. But generally, he always has like a little bindu and like a little half moon underneath it. So that half moon is actually the half syllable. Yes? Because he's our Gaudiya. He's our Gaudiya boy. No, I don't know. Why do we give Krishna Gaudiya Tilak if he doesn't, if he appeared 5,000 years ago before the Gaudiyas appeared? Mm-hmm. It's dear to us. So, well, I like to wear jeans and polo shirts. Should I make that on Takurji? No, I was kidding. No, this question was asked before. Like, why do we dress Takurji with, like, why don't we let him wear pants and stuff? Because that's what's modern. In fact, that was a kind of a controversial thing because there is a group of devotees that think this way. But sometimes we put Takurji's outfit on, and it's actually like not even a Hindu out. It's like from the Muslim Empire. Some of their clothing came in, but not our Radha Bihari. They're wearing nice outfits. But yes, why we put Gaudiya Tilak on Krishna? I think too, also just to reflect our mood. But sometimes you'll see Thakurjis without a Gaudiya Tilak. At least Krishna, they'll have just a little like red kind of U and dot. But really, I don't know. I don't know because there's so many different Vaishnav Tilaks. We might not even know what the original Vaishnav Tilak that Nanda Baba and Yashoda wore unless there was a description. There's probably a description in some Shastra that describes Krishna's Tilak, and we could put the same Tilak on, but for some reason, we want Krishna to wear our Tilak because we have the best Tilak. Kidding. All right, so I'm not sure. It's a good question. Anyone out there? Drop a comment and a like below. So I'm just kidding. I have no idea why we wear the Gaudiya Tilak. But anyway, so then after he woke up from his dream and Shrimati Radhika told him that what the fifth syllable was, he became overjoyed and he began to happily chant his Kam Gayatri mantra once again. Oh, here it is. The half syllable is described in the book known as Varnagama Basvat. In case you guys want to grab that from the library, you can check it out. In his old age, oh wait, I'll read one more paragraph here. By the mercy of Shrimati Radhika, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur became acquainted with the meaning of the mantra. He obtained the direct audience of his worshipful deity, and by means of his perfected spiritual body, he was able to participate in the Lord's eternal pastimes as an eternal associate. So that's how important it is to understand what we're chanting, guys. After this, he established the deity of Sri Gokulananda on the bank of Radhakund. While residing there, he experienced the sweetness of the eternal pastimes of Sri Vrindavan. It was at this time that he wrote his Sukhavartini commentary on Ananda Vrindavan Champu, a book written by Sri Kavi Karnapur. This is something that he wrote. I, Chakravarti Thakur, completely leaving aside all else, desire to attain Sri Vrindavan, residing in a simple hut on the bank of Sri Radha Kund, which is the topmost place of pastimes for Sri Radha. I am now writing this commentary on Ananda Vrindavan Champu. That's a good meditation. So you have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in a simple little hut on the bank of Radhakund, just doing his Nam Bhajan, doing his writing, doing his Astakaliya Smaran, just seeing Krishna's pastimes, sitting there. That's like the goal of our life. First, we have to cross through all this other nonsense, but hopefully we can come to that stage where we can do actual Raganuga sadhan, attain Bhav, and then just bob out on the banks of Radhakund. Now, let's move on here. Reestablish the doctrine of Parakiya Vad. All right, here we go. So after the six Goswamis departed, I'll just summarize it. So after the six Goswamis departed, Srila Jiva Goswami actually, in his commentaries, he wrote which appeared to be the glories of Swakiya. Now, what is Swakiya and what is Parakiya? And Parakiya? Swakiya is when the Nayaka and the Nayika are married. They are married. And when Parakiya is unmarried love, like paramour love. And, you know, I don't really like to go into this that much because I'm kind of like a little baby in the world of bhakti. So what do I really know? In fact, when I was first a devotee, I was like, I had no idea that Radha and Krishna weren't married. I just assumed that they were like, a couple or something. But anyways, then you find out that like Krishna eventually does marry 16,108 wives, which is completely okay. And then, but it's not okay for him to have relationships outside of marriage. But actually, so anyways, what I'm trying to say is Srila Jiva Goswami, he wrote in some of his books and in some of his commentaries that leaning in favor of Swakiya and married. But this is because his audience at the time were conditioned in such a way that it would be hard for them to hear otherwise. Which then we saw sometime later in Jaipur, like we just heard, that they were like, we shouldn't even have Radha and Krishna together because they weren't married. So it's a very delicate thing. We happen to have the fortune of living in a very degraded place called America, and we came from degraded backgrounds. So to us, it's very easy to accept it. We're like, oh yeah, why not? Krishna can do what he wants. But to more proper Vedic Brahmin caste personalities, it's more hard to digest that the Supreme Being might be having paramour love. But if you go into all the tattva about it, Krishna is not a lusty person. Even though this morning when we sang the Shikshastakam, it says Lampata right there, like he is a debauchee. But that's not true. That's a Rasik understanding. Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all of his energies manifest in personal forms, and all the gopis are nothing but an expansion of his Ladini Shakti, giving him pleasure and he giving them pleasure. It just so happens that he wove these tattvas into pastimes that appear to look like that they are separated and there's no marriage there. But 100%, the gopis belong to Krishna and Krishna's heart belongs to the gopis. So there's no confusion about Krishna doing any naughty activities. It is his transcendental Leela that makes it look this way. But from outsiders looking at Krishna's pastimes, and we can only see his pastimes through our mundane mind, some of us see he's being a naughty boy and he's doing some naughty things. And so it's hard to then give the respect to the position of the gopis and to Radharani. So sometimes our acharyas, like Jiva Goswami, spoke things in such a way that made it seem like Radha and Krishna were married, especially if you read Gopal Champu and other books that he wrote. So, anyways, there was this idea of Swakiya. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was still defending Parakiya. He's like, no, actually, the highest is Parakiya Ras. It's higher than Swakiya Ras. And so he was doing this, and so naturally he created enemies. Because whenever someone is boldly preaching and delivering the absolute truth, you're going to meet with opposition. Just like Srila Gurudev went around the world preaching heavily, very boldly these things, then he was then attacked and banned and all kind of things. Same with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He preached very boldly, and they decided that they were going to kill him by throwing bricks at him. And that's when Param Gurudev switched outfits. So we know the stories that when someone is preaching boldly, opposition comes. So in the same way, when Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was speaking boldly, the relationships of Radha and Krishna Gopis and Parakiya Ras, he met with opposition, and they decided to kill him. So every day he would do Braj or do Vrindavan Parikrama, which isn't like today with all the buildings and cars and craziness. It was still foresty with dark kunjas that you could go and get lost in and pick flowers from and weren't attacked by monkeys. So he was happily doing his parikrama one morning, and these Brahmins thought, okay, we know he does this parikrama. He'll be in this really dark kunj area, and no one will be able to see anything, and there we'll get him. So they were waiting for him, and they saw him enter the kunj, and so they thought, okay, now's the time. And as they waited and waited, he never finished coming down the trail. So then they looked, and they saw a very beautiful little girl, and she was just delicately picking flowers. And immediately upon seeing her, their minds began to be purified. They approached the little girl and said, "Oh, Lali, have you seen like a very great Brahmin, elderly Brahmin come through here?" She's like, "I don't know anything. I'm just picking flowers for my Swamini." And then they were like, "Your Swamini?" And she was like, "Yes." And she was so enchanting. And then in that moment, as they were appreciating her beauty and their minds and hearts become purified, immediately he took the form again of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And those Brahmins, boom, they fell to the ground hard with their heads. They were like, "We're so sorry. What were we thinking? We become contaminated by all this and all that." And so they surrendered to him. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur became the Rasik Shiromani, the crown jewel of all Rasik Vaishnavas, and everyone loved and glorified him. He even helped defeat the caste. Maybe that was a chapter I skipped. But there was a time where it was like accepted that the family members of a associate were automatically given the title of Goswami and Acharya and Guru without the qualification. And also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur didn't accept this. He's like, no, it is by qualification. You can't just be born in a lineage and expect to be the Acharya. This is nothing but desire for money and fame and disciples. And so there was a lot of opposition that came his way. But ultimately, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he really opened this doorway of Raganuga Bhakti for all of us to understand and appreciate, especially through Raghavartma Chandrika. This is a great little study book. And if you read his commentaries, you will enter into Radha and Krishna's pastimes a lot sweeter and easier. And Srila Gurudev loved reading the pastimes or the commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Okay, now in 10 minutes, let's do Madhvacharya. So today is the Divine Appearance Day of our Sampradaya Acharya, Madhvacharya. There are how many Vaishnava Sampradayas? Four. Congratulations. And each Sampradaya is coming from one of the Lord's, I'm not going to say associate, but they're associates. So within our universe, there's divine celestial personalities, and the four topmost being Lord Shiva, Lakshmi herself, Brahma, and the four Kumaras, these four Vaishnavas, they each have teachings that they pass down. And so their lineage, we sing it in the morning. So from Brahma, he then spoke transcendental knowledge to who? Narad. And then Narada spoke transcendental knowledge to who? And then Vyasadeva spoke to who? But isn't there a huge gap of time between Vyasa and Madhva? Wow, the time space continuum does not exist in the Vaishnava realities. It's true, actually. If you read any story in the Bhagavatam, you don't know which kalpa you're reading. It could be like a million years ago, it could be 100 billion years ago. Yes, in fact, that is where Madhvacharya met with Vyasadeva. This is how the link came. So, Vyasadeva, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, the beginning of Kali Yuga, he compiled the Vedas, and he resides in Bajragashram, deep in the Himalayas, very hard to get to, even today is hard to get to, and you can't even get to it for most of the year because it's snowed in. So it's hard to get to. So anyways, Madhvacharya, he also born, nice little Brahmin. He was very strong too. Some people believe him to be the incarnation of Vayu or Hanuman. And he did a bunch of pastimes. I'm not going to say all of them, but he was very strong. He did great things. And when he was a boy, one time his parents had some debt. And so he took the debtor, because the debtor played a really good trick. They were like, I'm going to fast until you pay me. I'll fast to death. And you'll be responsible for killing me if you don't pay me back. So they were super worried, like, we cannot have this person fasting on our doorstep until he dies. We have to find a way to pay him back. They didn't know what to do. So little Madhvacharya, whose name was actually Vasudeva, he was like, "Come with me, debtor. I'll take you out back." And no, actually, they did take him out back, but to a tamarind tree. And he collected some tamarind seeds and held them in his hand, and then put them in the debtor's hand. And the debtor's like, "What is this childish behavior?" But when he opened his hand, it was all gold, and it was the exact amount that his parents owed. And the debtor was like shocked and was like, "Oh, very nice." So this pastime happened with Madhvacharya. It happened with Nimai Pandit. These things happen. Even Krishna himself was able to grow pearls out of a pearl tree. So the Lord and his associates can manifest gold from anything. And so that was one pastime. Another pastime when he was young was there was a snake, big ferocious snake, which was considered like a demon. And he actually killed it with his toe. He just was like, bloop, and just killed the snake. And everyone was like, whoa. Then he would also like hike this mountain to have darshan. And then it was so far away from his parents' house, but he was coming home late. So he actually jumped all the way from the mountain all the way home within a second. His mom was like, whoa. So Madhvacharya had a lot of powers. He was very strong. But he was also very interested in bhakti. And so he naturally just gravitated to being like a monk, and he didn't want to enter family life, and he took sannyas at a young age. And he took sannyas from someone in the Shankaracharya school, the Mayavad school. Because if we look at the history of things, ancient Bharat or India, they followed the Vedas. But then the Dwapara Yuga Dharma was not able to be followed in Kali Yuga. So they were still trying to do yajnas and sacrifices, and they were killing animals for what they thought was going to benefit them, but actually they were just bringing themselves down, and they were messing the whole situation up. So the Lord came as Buddha and then said, hey, stop following the Vedas, just follow what I say, practice ahimsa, do these things. And India then actually just kind of drifted away from Veda culture and took Buddhism, and it spread all through India. But then Shankaracharya came, incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he said, no, 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 boom, get rid of this nonsense philosophy, Buddhism, and he reestablished the authority of the Vedas. But in his conceptions, he kept the idea of Godhead as impersonal, the idea of the Supreme Being having no form, and we being pieces of that Brahman and entering back into Brahman and being ultimately zero. So Shankaracharya did a service by getting rid of Buddhism and reestablishing the Vedas, but he left the wrong ideology behind. And so that gave a reason for the four Vaishnavacharyas to come and to defeat Shankaracharya's philosophy of Mayavad. And in this way, Madhvacharya was also being one of our Vaishnavacharyas. He was defeating Mayavad. And his doctrine that defeated Mayavad is called Sudha Dvaitavad. Now, we just had Advaitacharya's appearance day, so what does Advaita mean? So what does Dvaita mean? Dual. So he's saying that his philosophy was there is a difference Whenever there's simultaneous oneness and difference, the difference will take prominence. So there's a difference. Even though Jiva and Bhagavan are one, but they're also different, and we should think about the difference. And Bhagavan and Maya are one because it's energy and energetic, just like light and fire are energies. I mean, light and heat are energies of fire, but they're also different. They're not exactly fire themselves. So Bhagavan and Maya, Bhagavan and Jiva, Jiva and Jiva. There's differences between Jivas. We're all not the same exact soul. We're not just a bunch of just the same, things. Even though we're all the same compositionally, the same, but we're not the same soul. We're all different. And differences between Maya and Maya, different energies of Maya are also have differences, even though they're both material energies. So like this, he was describing the differences in Krishna and his creation. Now Madhvacharya, he actually went to Bajragashram because he wanted to write a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and he wanted it to be offered to Vyasadeva. And while he was up there, he actually was able to meet with Vyasadeva, who approved of his commentary to Bhagavad Gita. And then that is how Madhvacharya becomes a disciple of Vyasadeva. So when we read our Guru Parampara, we kind of skip like 5,000 years, not 5,000, like 3,000 years of sadhus, because it goes from Vyas to Madhva. If we had a guru that was 5,000 years old, we would also be right next in line. So while he was up there, he got the blessings of Vyasadeva. And also, one of the Thakurji spoke to him and told him, which I thought was interesting, that Vyasa or Madhvacharya could have told the entire understanding that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, which is Achinta Beta Beta Tattva. But he was instructed to reveal what was appropriate for his audience. So, because you might think, why would these four Vaishnava acharyas come and each speak a little different doctrine? Why didn't they all just speak the same doctrine? What was the need to have little differences? Well, the need was because each audience was captured by a certain doctrine, and then ultimately they were paving the way for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come and synthesize all four Vaishnava doctrines into one doctrine called Achinta Beta Beta Tattva, or the simultaneous oneness and difference of Krishna and his energies. See, ours is actually a tattva, it's not a vad. All the others are called vads, mean theories, the theory of. But ours is the truth, the fundamental truth, the tattva. Anyway, so Madhvacharya, he began preaching all through India. He defeated a lot of scholars. He defeated Mayavadis. He um, he then, when he was also in Udupi, because he was from an area near Udupi, which is like on the west coast of India. He was there one day doing his like bhajan on the bank of the ocean, and or some maybe the ocean, and a boat was getting not lost, but they was having a hard time coming to land, and it was getting beat up by the waves. So Madhvacharya directed from the ocean which way for the boat to come, and it was able to nicely dock on the beach. And as a thank you, the boatman was like, "Hey, I have cargo. What can I offer you? Money, gold, riches. Like, I really appreciate what you did." He said, I don't need anything." He's like, "Please take something." And Madhvacharya saw a big chunk of clay, a tilak, from Gopi Chandan, from Dwarka. Like, there's a kund there with Gopi Chandan. He's like, "I'll take this." So the man's like, "You just want some Gopi Chandan? All right, well, that's great for me too. But here, take it." And he took it and cracked it open, the Chandan, and inside was a beautiful Gopal deity holding a stick and butter. Big deity, which was extremely heavy. It would take 30 men to lift this deity, so no one could move it. But Madhvacharya took the deity and carried it himself all the way from his place of bhajan into Udupi, and they established that deity there. You can go there till this day and see it. So he became famous for that too. So he was gaining lots of fame. He was defeating all these different schools of thought. Everyone loved him. Um, there's probably more to say, but I'm out of time. So we'll just say that Madhvacharya, and then his disciples come down all the way to Madhavendra Puri, who then came down to Ishwar Puri, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who then took initiation in the Madhva Sampradaya. But there was a debate that was like, hey, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not part of the Madhva Sampradaya because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself defeated the Tattvavadis, calling them like, "You're wrong, like your philosophy is bogus." So how can he be a disciple in the line of Madhvacharya if he's defeated the disciples of Madhvacharya? And you can hear about this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but pretty much it is true that Mahaprabhu did that. But like we talked about earlier, the deviation, after Madhvacharya, some of his line philosophy kind of deviated and got corrupted. And so even though his he called his like line like Tattvavadis, they then deviated. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu corrected that because Madhvacharya appeared around 1100s, and then the 1100s, some say 1200s, so a long time ago. And Mahaprabhu appeared in the 15, almost 1600s. So it was like 400 years had passed practically. So a lot of deviation had happened. And so Mahaprabhu defeated that deviation. He didn't defeat Madhvacharya's philosophy. And though he took some from it, he really appreciated from Madhvacharya the fact that Madhvacharya kept the idea of God as a person, that the form of the Lord is eternal. Some people accepted the Lord, some people accepted Vishnu as being like the supreme being, but they accepted the body being still material. It's like Brahma himself, Brahman became Vishnu, and that body can be destroyed, and he'll go back to being Brahman. This is also like the thinking of like Hiranyakashipu and stuff. They're like, oh, I can kill Vishnu easily, but you cannot. Anyway, he appreciated that Madhvacharya kept the eternal form of the Lord as supreme, and that Madhvacharya also was not worshiping Lakshmi Narayan, he was worshiping Gopal, and he even taught his most prominent sannyasis. He had 8 sannyasis that were super prominent. He even taught them how to worship Krishna with Gopi Bhav. So that was nice too. And so Madhvacharya is our Sampradaya Acharya because each Sampradaya has one prominent Acharya in Kali Yuga. For us, in the Brahma Sampradaya, it's Madhva. In the Vishnu Sampradaya, in the Ruja Sampradaya, it's Vishnu Swami. In the Sri Sampradaya, it's Ramanuja. And in the Nimbadita Sampradaya, or the Kumar Sampradaya, is Nimbadita Acharya. Anyways, we'll wrap it up here. It's 11:20. So we'll say Jai Srila Madhvacharya, Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Please sprinkle your mercy upon us, whether it be a bindu or a Quran. We would take anything because we are just trying to become devotees, and we also want to enter into Raganuga Bhakti. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, you are a great personality to let us enter into the Rag Vartma Chandrika. Jai Nitai Gaura Hari Hari Bol.